Welcome to your Thursday evening stroll around your celestial neighborhood. I'm Irene Pease, your friendly neighborhood astronomer, just struggling with the Facebook like I do. Super excited. I've been looking forward to this for at least a couple of months when I realized I might be able to do something like this. And of course, it's like underprepared, overexcited, underprepared. I think that's just what we do around here. Professional amateur is how we roll. So, in celebration of upcoming Towel Day next Tuesday, I decided to do Towel Day early, and we are going to do a little hitchhiking around the Milky Way using the guide to the galaxy as a guide to the galaxy and beyond, a little bit, just a smidge. So all over the universe, but yeah, this is what we're doing. So visuals we're using as usual Stellarium, which you can find at stellarium.org, and OpenSpace, which you can find and download for free at openspaceproject.com. Yeah, so without further ado, let's pop on over to the Stellarium and see what's happening in our, wherever we are, somewhere desolate, unfashionable, and yet everywhere unfashionable, there's still people. Imagine that. Look, there's like people like walking around in this wasteland, wherever this is. So this is now probably not Brooklyn, but we'll pretend. So if you were in Brooklyn and saw this terrain, what would be happening? Well, it's still getting, kind of light out because it's that time of year where it doesn't get dark until really, really late. I'll turn some of these off for now. But we have the planets. So over the coming couple of weeks, we have the planets being really awesome over in the west. I think I actually forgot to find the date. It may have been just this last week. Mercury had an elongation, eastern elongation, where it's highest in the sky after sunset. So that's east as opposed to west. But we have some cool things coming up. If you stick around, Mercury and Venus are going to be super duper close next week. So I'll talk probably a little bit about that. It'll be really, really cool pictures. I'm anticipating awesome pictures from the AAA Astrophotography group about that. If you don't know AAA Astrophotography, check out the AAA. That's the astronomy thing, not the car thing. But they have a really cool video just posted on their YouTube channel that's a collection of several amazing images taken by New York area astronomers, amateur astronomers, astrophotographers. So very, very cool to see what people can do from the city and its environs. Yeah, so planets, those are out, and those are always super exciting. The other thing I need to point out, because it's relevant, is if you stay up late enough, I actually did this last Wednesday with some other intrepid observers. We stayed up late enough that Cassiopeia was coming up in the northeast sky, and that nova that I may have said something about a little while back now, it's still there and it's actually getting brighter. So if you haven't seen it, you can still look. You're looking up by M52, and here they call it the salt and pepper cluster. So M52, so it's over here by this star cluster, the bubble nebula. Again, that won't show up in your telescopes. But if you look kind of between the cluster and this brighter, oh wow, it's in here now. I was going to say this brighter star, but just kidding, it's in here now. So it's actually a little bit brighter than this star, I think. I don't know if this is 6.6, 5 point, yeah, it's actually brighter than the star. So this one used to be brighter, but this silly nova, it was like 7th magnitude about a month or so ago, and now it's up to apparently 5.46, and isn't that awesome? So thanks Stellarium for updating that and including it. That's super great and makes it even easier, so you don't even need me. Just take Stellarium on your device out into the skies or print it on from the desktop version. Very cool. So you can tell that I checked that earlier. The last thing I want to point out before we move back over to open space is kind of just a little constellation. Let me turn off some of the deep sky stuff. So this is a naked eye thing that you can see. And actually, since this is so bright, you'll be able to see this with binoculars. If you go to a dark site, I did see it with my binoculars last week from upstate New York. Not super far upstate, not like the Catskills, but like Cold Spring area. So you can see that with binoculars from a dark site because, again, like 5 point something magnitude. The other thing you can see without binoculars from a slightly less dark site, you might recall a summer triangle from, the summer. So if you're out late, maybe not quite this late, we'll put us at midnight. So rising around midnight, up here you have the summer triangle, so the bright stars Vega and Lyra the harp, Altair and Aquila the eagle, and Deneb in Cygnus the swan. And if you draw a line between the birds, the bird stars, so the eagle star and the swan star, just to the east of those is this little kind of diamond shape constellation with a tail. So it's not an amoeba, it's a dolphin. And if you like turn yourself around so that like this part is up and this part is down, so like I don't know if you could do like a handstand thing where you bend over backwards, which I can't. Then it looks like a little dolphin sticking his little head out of the water. They drew it the other way. I imagine it like flipped, but there's your dolphin, which of course are the most intelligent species on Earth because they vacated before it got blown up in our book series. So there's a dolphin in the sky. If you didn't know, now you know. And so you can go look for that. Again, if it's kind of dark out, you probably want maybe just a little bit after midnight so it's not super close to the horizon. It's going to be kind of blurry and, well, the horizon frankly just makes stars twinkle, which makes them a little bit harder to see if they're faint. But just this kind of diamond shape between east into the east of this line between Deneb and Altair. So if you can find the summer triangle, go ahead and look for a dolphinus. And just think of happy playing, mucking about in the water dolphins. That's your homework. Naked eye, binocular homework, and planets. Just always look at the planets because they're awesome. So if we pop on over to open space, ooh, space. So first I thought we'd just look a little bit around where we are, tour around the neighborhood. And again, I think this is totally appropriate. Just kind of like flying by the seat of our skirts tonight. So yeah, let's take a look at just kind of where we are in the galaxy. So we're supposed to be kind of on the, what is it? Far out in the uncharted backwaters of an unfashionable edge. Of the western spiral arm of the galaxy. Not entirely unfashionable. I mean, but if we move out a bit, yeah, I think we can start to see some of the other nearby stars. See some nearby stars in here. Oh, that was a planet. Just kidding. There goes the sun and some nearby stars. So some of the closer stars to us. One is actually can visit because it's relevant. Sirius. So that's right in here. So Sirius is relatively close. I want to say, yeah, a dozen or so. We're at like around 3, 2. Oh, just kidding. That's Sirius. Yeah. So not too terribly far from Earth. It's and it is the brightest star in our night sky. So that's apparently where they make robots, really happy robots and really cranky robots, depending on what personality type you want your robot to have. Sirius is actually a multiple star system. So there's some dimmer stars that are kind of tucked in there that are hard to see. If you're a double star observer kind of person, you've probably tried to pick those out at some point, trying to pick out Sirius B in the bright, bright glow of the main bright star there. So that's kind of a fun thing to pick out. A little trip to the robot factory. The other other bits that we have in here are, let's see, I think I promised epsilon. Yeah. See if we can get a little bit of context here. So I'm just going to start whirling around and making everyone nauseous like you do. Yeah. So this constellation, so these lines, I don't know if you can see, kind of dark, light blue, they're bluish. This is kind of how they might look as seen from Earth, right? So actually, if we just focus back on Earth for a sec, zoom in towards Earth, and look up, yeah, so we have this kind of shaped constellation in the sky, like a little hook and a little blob, a little trapezoid. There's a lot of hooks and trapezoids, and everything's a triangle if there's 3 of them. So that's Ursa Minor, right? And apparently, so there's the great publishing corporations of Ursa Minor, which must be really great because Ursa Minor's freaking huge, right? So these stars are not all really close to each other in the sky. Like if you look at the Big Dipper, which I think we've done at some point, and I made a video of that. You can look at the Big Dipper moving through time video at the Hayden Planetarium video blog called Skylight. So the stars in the Big Dipper that are part of Ursa Major are actually relatively close to each other in the sky, but the stars of Ursa Minor are quite a bit more spread out. So some much closer to Earth, some much further away. I actually wanted to, for just a teensy bit of reference, turn on the sphere. So that sphere extends out to about 50 light years from Earth. So 70, just kidding. I think it's around 70 light years from Earth. So yeah, so some of these stars are like twice as far away from the Earth as others. So that covers an awful lot of volume. So that's plenty of space to be making and storing books, even if they actually store the paper of like, can you imagine like all the books and all the material ever written, even like digitally. Like if you had to print out everything that was on your computer, can you imagine how much paper that would be? Like now that we have like multiple gigabytes, just kidding, terabytes. So if all the stuff on all the computers on the Earth, just on the Earth were printed out, that would take up a bit of space. But there's so much space out here. So even if they had to print out everything written on, if there were multiple planets with civilizations, there's a lot of space in Ursa Major if you're counting all of these stars. Sorry, Ursa Minor. Major, yeah, totally different. But there's our Ursa Minor out in space. But yeah, I wanted to see like where we are in the galaxy, like exactly how far out in the boonies we are. So let's keep going a bit. And I think we visited a little bit of spiral structure not too long ago, but that's okay. It helps to review stuff. I know it helps me. So there is kind of our Milky Way. This is a little bit of a cartoon of the Milky Way. We don't have actual pictures of the Milky Way, of course. So most of the data that we see in open space is real data, like real images, from different surveys, different observations, but we've never observed the Milky Way from this vantage point, right? We can't see it like that. That's not a thing. And I just realized I like lost where the Earth is. Oh, there it is. There's a tiny point here. Maybe I should put on a different marker, but I broke that. So So we kind of look out, we use things like, Gaia to map as many stars as we can, and we look out at other galaxies and see what they're shaped like. So we have a bit of a map. We have a sense that there's not so much a bulge as a bar. So this is like elongated a little bit in the middle here. And again, this is us kind of between what looks like we're between 2 arms out here. So we're actually kind of outside of I want to say the Perseus arm is in there. Just kidding. The Perseus arm is a little bit further out. So I think this is Perseus out here. That makes sense because Perseus is more of like a fall winter constellation. So that's kind of the direction that we're looking that time of year when we're facing out kind of away, from the spiral arms or from away from the central bulge. So Perseus on the outside, and then we have Carina Sagittarius, and now I flipped it. Let's flip back over. So we're looking from this direction, right, orientations in space. So then we have, kind of Perseus Sagittarius in here, and maybe kind of an Orion or Orion Cygnus arm that we're actually on, which kind of makes sense because Cygnus we see basically in the plane of the galaxy. We see basically all these constellations that the arms are named after are in the plane of the galaxy, which is why they have arms named after them, because it's the part of the arm that goes through the constellation, that part of our sky. So yeah, maybe not the most populous, but that's kind of good because where there's a lot of stuff going on, there's a lot of stuff going on, and that gets messy. And who wants to be bothered with that except for apparently New Yorkers, because God, we live in New York City. But yeah, so speaking of bars, we call this a galactic bar. So if it's round, we just call it a bulge, but when it's like elongated, we call it more of a bar because it's, slightly more bar shaped. And I know the Hitchhiker's Guide does mention the best drink in existence. So I don't think I can show you a drink in the sky, but there's a god awful lot of alcohol. So we can check out some of that if you'd like to visit some big clouds of alcohol. There's just a bit of that stuff. So one of the more popular regions to go to collect alcohol in our neighborhood anyway might be this big cloud of gas. So there's lots of stuff in the universe. Most of this stuff in the universe we don't really understand because most of it's actually dark energy. And the stuff that we kind of understand because it interacts with gravity, but not so much with light. There's all this dark matter that we still don't know exactly what that is. And then of the stuff that like is made of like atoms and stuff that we're used to, and that we kind of have a handle on, you would hope. Most of that is hydrogen, the simplest atom. And then a bit of that is helium, and a teensy weeny bit is other stuff, which astronomers like to call metals. But sometimes those metals, they get together, and I guess if you ask a chemist, they'll, get more into detail. But they'll connect and they'll make, molecules. So it's not just atoms hanging out, but even like hydrogen, we have atomic hydrogen and then we have molecular hydrogen, which is H2. So two hydrogen atoms connected together to make a hydrogen molecule. Just a little review of chemistry there. So we do have these molecules that get formed from hydrogen and some of the quote unquote metals, the things that are heavier than helium. And so we do get actually the C2H6O, which apparently is ethanol. So there's methanol, there's acetone, there's ethanol molecules in space. And a lot of them are going to be in these like star-forming regions. It's not very dense, right? So it would take quite a while, I think, to collect enough to run around and collect enough to make like a drink. And of course, you'd have to pressurize in. That's all kinds of other issues. But maybe it's, comforting to know that the universe is full of alcohol molecules. They're just, there's a lot, but they're just kind of spread out. But, you've got this nice view, right? So this is like a star forming region. So a lot of gas that's kind of collected together from previous generations of stars that has not only hydrogen and helium, but again, these heavier elements that, have collected and some even combined to form exciting, exotic molecules such as, things that we might think would be tasty beverages if they had a splash of lime and cranberry or something. So these cone kind of things, those are features from stars that are forming, and then there's bits, kind of bits getting blasted off. Um, so if you imagine like some stellar winds or interstellar winds kind of blasting along and kind of pushing gases back. So there's kind of these interesting like bubbly shapes forming around the brand new stars, brand new baby stars, trying to form planets. All they want to do is form some planets, but there's all this other stuff going on around them. So pretty exciting, but that's just one. So there's lots and lots of other stellar nurseries. If you just turn on maybe some of those, nope. We can see just how prevalent they are all over. I want to go with these. Well, these are our H2 regions. Yeah, so a lot of these are some star forming regions. And then there's the sphere, that's where we are. So these are mostly in the plane of the galaxy, but yeah, that's where most of the fun stuff is. All the fun stuff, all the fashionable stuff, like us, right? Super duper fashionable, just some days more so than others. So where would you get a cosmic drink? Where could you, actually collect all this? Well, there's a couple of places. I thought we'd visit the closest thing we have to the Big Bang Burger Bar. Really, the Big Bang Burger Bar, the Big Bang happened all around us, right? The Big Bang happened everywhere in the universe. So that is the universe. So if we move far, far out, we're so far away now that all these dots are galaxies. So we move out past all these galaxies. We can see like large scale structure because, again, space is big. So these are some of the biggest structures in the universe, like these kind of filaments that are collections of galactic clusters. So there's more galaxies. That's another galaxy data set. Our Sloan galaxies, and beyond the galaxies, because as we're moving further away, we're also moving back in time. So the universe is big, it's also old, blah, blah, blah. Good old universe. So as we move further away, we're looking further back at time at more ancient objects, or we could think of them as being from the early universe, when the universe was just a little baby, like those little stars in the Orion Nebula, little baby stars. This is like our little baby universe. Well, baby-ish. So the most distant thing that we can really see out here is this cosmic microwave background. So even that was light that was emitted about 380,000 years after the Big Bang. But this is kind of as far away as we can see. So, but anywhere you could have a Big Bang Burger Bar. There actually used to be one apparently in Manhattan. They closed because, expansion, inflation, whatever, I don't know. But anyway, apparently it's not there anymore. But I like to imagine it's, somewhere. I'm sure somewhere, probably even somewhere on planet Earth, there's another Big Bang Burger Bar. But again, that's just our little bubble universe. If we leave our bubble, that's just our observable universe. We could imagine, a different observable universe that someone else could potentially observe. So I don't know if this is allowed or not, but we kind of just left the universe. But suppose there were, an observer in the center of this other universe, right? Then we center on them. Then some of the stuff that they can see, we can't, and some of the stuff that we can see, they can't. But then there's also the overlap that we can both see. So I guess for a Big Bang Burger Bar, you'd want it anywhere in your observable universe, because you could say, yeah, the Big Bang happened here, but really it happened everywhere in all the universes. Okay. But then where should we put the restaurant at the end of the universe? So, if the Big Bang happened everywhere, Where's where's the end of the universe happening? Well, because of expansion, our observable universe, or the part of the universe that we can actually reach, that we can get to, so I shouldn't say observable, eventually that'll shrink a bit, but the part that we can actually reach is getting smaller, because the outer bits are moving away from us so quickly. So if you're going to look for the end of the universe, you want to think deep, look inside yourself. um, because yeah, if you were basically getting to the end of the universe, everything would be kind of getting cold and dark, and all the more distant stars would be just kind of blinking out, and everything would get faint, and you'd end up like kind of all alone, which is really depressing. So I'm not going to end with that, but I'm just going to say, like, that's where the restaurant at the end of the universe would be. So you'd be cooking for one, basically. So good luck with that. The last thing I actually wanted to end with, because it's not like totally depressing, was another fun thing to look for in the night sky. So we're actually going to pop back over to Stellarium, which I know I don't usually go back to Stellarium, but we're going to go back to Stellarium, and we're going to kind of move to the winter sky. So I'm going to turn off the atmosphere, so everyone hold your breath. But in the winter sky, we have that's the totally wrong button. We have the constellation Orion, which you might be familiar with. Let's actually just go back towards the winter. Now I'm like really losing Orion. Oh, I know. Yeah. So up in Orion, there's, the belt, there's the sword with the nebula that I think we already visited. There's the shoulder Bellatrix, the armpit Betelgeuse, and then up here he's holding like a club. Let's see how this looks. Yeah. Okay. Whatever. Okay. So I imagine this as being like his elbow up here, but it's drawn as his elbow down here. So up in here between these two stars, there is a fun little deep sky object. It's called the 37 cluster. It's also NGC 2169. And because it's near these two stars, it's relatively straightforward to pick out in a telescope or binoculars, even if you're at a dark site. It's a bright-ish cluster. I don't know if I turn these off. It still kind of like pulses around there. So I try to push that over there. But yeah, I don't know if you can almost start to imagine that this looks like a 7. And these stars in here make like a jagged 3. So there's like this big 37 in the sky, which, like, that's not creepy at all, right? Because, who put that there? But yeah, so haven't found a 42 up there yet, so maybe the answer is actually a little bit off, but I'm just saying there is a 37 cluster, so I'm kind of holding out and hoping that one of these days we'll find a nice big flashing 42 up there somewhere. But just don't panic. So that's our little tour. I wish everyone a really happy towel day on Tuesday. Make sure you know where your towel is. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, look up The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and read it while you're at it. One other quick thing, I think I've mentioned that I'm in a podcast. So if you really enjoy listening to the sound of my voice and would like to hear me talking about other things and to other actual people, like actually verbally interacting, imagine that. AAA Sky, that's AAA Sky.nyc. And next episode drops this Sunday, the 23rd. I think it drops 10:30 a.m. So look for that wherever you find podcasts and check it out. Rate us, send in comments, subscribe, all those podcast things. So that's it for tonight. Again, I'm Irene Pease, your friendly neighborhood astronomer. Tonight we've been using visuals from Stellarium, which you can find at stellarium.org. And of course, in the background now, you see Open Space, which you can find and download for free at openspaceproject.com. Clear skies, everyone. Be safe out there. And if you haven't yet, go get vaccinated.